Greetings and good vibes. Good evening, good morning. How is everybody? Welcome to Freedom for All. I'm your girl Meg, and I'm joined tonight by some amazing co-hosts. If you guys want to introduce yourselves.
Hey everybody, I am John Tell. You already know who I am, representing Revolution Newslink, and founder of the Leon Block.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight, John Tell. What?
I'm Dora Latour. I'm the founder of Augur Media, which is a journalist aid group. I help with promotion and logistics for independent media around the country.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dora, for joining us tonight. I appreciate it. And last but not least, Matthew, what is up? How are you?
I'm all right. How are you guys? I am an activist from the New England area, and I love being part of this movement.
Thank you so much, everybody. So we are back with another episode, bringing you all the deets on individuals that are fighting for freedom around the globe. Know that at the Leon Block, that's one of our sole purposes is to shed light into a dark world that others feel uncomfortable to talk about. We're here to get uncomfortable to elevate to our larger realm of consciousness. If we aren't in the know, then we can't demand change appropriately. We must be clear and understand what the fundamental problem is and understand that the root of the problem is the system. The only way we have change or we can have change and reform of the systemic disparities is if we bring the clear, competent leaders in and commit to the long haul. This is a marathon. It's not a sprint. So we must connect through community. Our communities are hurting. We need compassion, layers of support, and to show more grace and humanity. The Leon Block is on a mission to bridge the gap between our community resources available and to our communities that need those resources the most. Whether that be in our backyard or yours, that is our purpose, to be the bridge. And we also couldn't do what we do without your donations and support. So our payment options are scrolling at the bottom of the screen. And don't forget to set your notifications when we're live. Like and subscribe to view more of your favorite social injustice freedom fighter. So this webisode, guys, we're going to talk about Alabama state prisons, and along with some things going on with the Costelli Vaughn case. He's an inmate currently in Alabama that needs dire medical attention. He had a bullet wound from an incident which led him to incarceration from 2013. And right now, millions of Americans are incarcerated. It's violent, it's inhumane conditions, and prisons don't provide the treatment, education, or rehabilitations. And so we're fighting for reform for incarcerated individuals. So if any of this rings clear to your heart, please feel free to reach out to us, and we would love to hear your story. Whenever you're in prison, the hardest thing to do is to get help and to get, people that's on the outside able to do the footwork for you.
That's right.
And so with Costello, I mean, he was 155, at least I would say like approximate 150 pounds. He's now very small. And his family is demanding that he gets medical attention. This is like such a sad situation. They're asking everybody to reach out to, we'll post the number online. I'm not sure what the number is here unless we have it from last time. But with them doing this to him, this is a clear violation of his 8th and 14th Amendment. And, as United States citizens, we are entitled to human rights and constitutional rights. And that's a no-brainer. We just have to educate others so they know exactly what's going on, because a lot of people just aren't paying attention to this type of thing.
So agree. People are too busy. I'm sorry. People are too busy working and living their lives, and blinded by all of these things in our society that they feel like they don't have the capacity to really care or listen. But you have to be a productive part of society. You have to care somewhat about what is going on in our world,
Right, and knowledge is power. And so if we can, we'll share links in the comments to contact the governor and the Congress people, because politicians need to be held accountable as well. So we just have to come together across all lines of division and just work this out. There's people suffering. The bigger picture is, jails are for profit. That's something a lot of people don't know. Even the sharks and the shark tanks, they're people's pets. And we talk about this on T a lot, but it's so true.
So deeper into Castillo Vaughn's situation.
Several releases after his death. He sold 15 million.
Are you there, Meg? Was that you? Or
yes,
was that
go
me?
ahead. I think that was you.
Yeah, that was weird. Castillo Vaughn's situation being placed at the Elmore Correctional Facility. This has become a... Yeah, I'm echoing a bit. It has become a statewide situation where all of the inmates across the state have been on a hunger strike. Or no, they've been starved. I'm so sorry. Forgive me. The inmates have been starved, which is against their human rights, because something with the employees,
and they're being starved because.
Go ahead.
Due to the inhumane conditions at the prison.
Yeah.
Yes. So due to the inhumane and deplorable conditions at this prison and at prisons across the globe, let alone just in Alabama, but they're deplorable, inhumane, conditions. These people are suffering. This is horrible. Look at this man. He is so tiny. He is malnourished. He needs immediate medical attention. We have to stand together and fight for him. This is, if not, we're going to see another death happen in prison that they don't have to release the records to, that we have to fight for the autopsy. And, really, that is, that breaks my heart.
Well, we're not doing that.
At the end of the day, though, everybody's human. And, this is a great representation of what we don't want America to look like. Whenever he's in prison, whenever anybody's in prison, they're in the care, custody, and control of the prison. So the prison needs to be held accountable at this point.
Right. And the state, not even just the prison, but the state.
Right. The prison, the state, nationwide, this is a violation of his civil rights. It can be turned into the Department of Justice, and we can, definitely post that link in the comments as well. It's got to stop. These images are horribly disturbing. Can you imagine what's going on they don't have pictures of? That's a really good question.
Talk about it. What do y'all think?
It's even from, what's you guys' opinion so far, Dora and Matt?
And Soup, welcome to the show, Soup.
Oh, Soup made it.
Oh,
okay.
welcome, Soup. I didn't see him down there.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just late, but I think Dora wants to speak, so let her go first.
I was actually going to ask if Matthew wanted to go. I'm still formulating my thoughts.
Appreciate it. I think it sheds a pretty big light on misconduct inside prisons, because this isn't something that's just native to Alabama. This happens all across the country in prisons. People are mistreated, and this should definitely be something that should be protested on. People should have more conversations about this and realize that people aren't just treated like human beings when they're in prison.
Right. And they still have rights. On the Constitution, we are all held rights as individuals, regardless if we're incarcerated or not. And, you do lose some of those rights being incarcerated, but you don't lose, you cannot be cruel and unusual punishment, inhumane situations, conditions. There was when was it yesterday? A photo was posted of Rikers Island and people had feces all over them. And very shortly thereafter, it was taken down because, of course, follow the money trail. Super
yes.
Dora, do you have comments?
So, Dora, go ahead.
Oh, no, you guys are good. I dropped my phone.
No problem. Soup, go ahead.
So hey, that's why we have certain like institutions like the Geneva Convention, and the ACLU to protect certain rights. And I mean there's several groups and organizations across America that work to protect the rights of prisoners. A lot of the problem is these prisons have become like private sector prisons. So a lot of these are privately owned by corporations, and they don't care about the inmates at all. Like, and
Exactly.
it's just getting worse and worse all the time. Like, I mean, the amount of money that they put towards these inmates' meals in the first place. I mean, I'm surprised they're not all starving. It's just deplorable. Like,
Right.
just absolutely deplorable.
100%. And just with the graphic that we just had up there, the United States is 5% of the world's population, but it's 25% of the world's prison population. So, and we know how disparities are set up by nature and by, going over these cases, the Black and brown community being, not only held pre-trial, but also, being sentenced to harsher crimes. In Alabama, this guy that, is Castiello Vaughn, he was sentenced to a 20 years prison sentence, which here in Pennsylvania has a maximum minimum of 5 to 10 years. Just like to show the viewers the true difference of what we're dealing with. And that's how far that's how far behind the South is. So it's very sad. And then if you want to go to the 33 shocking prison facts.
Sure.
We are here more than anything just to educate, one another, because I would have never knew if I didn't, find out. And that's the beauty of it, is we can all, learn together.
Mm-hmm. So I'll read this off for you. 33 shocking prisoner facts. The 2021 verdict. Even though Americans make up only 4% of the world population, the U.S. holds a staggering 22% of the planet's imprisoned individuals. Let that sink in for a minute. Now, law and order and the war on drugs are listed as two things that made the incarceration rates in the U.S. skyrocket and set the corrections on a path to becoming the mass incarceration of industry of today. But there's more to it. Many prisoner facts show that the system is oriented towards punishment rather than rehabilitation or integration, something we talk about a lot. The 3 strikes policy is overpopulating prisons, with offenders being sentenced to life without parole for insignificant offenses by default. And that is the disparities when it comes to like people of color, especially Black men that are on death row for crimes that they're found innocent for, and it's proven that they're innocent, but yet they still sit facing death. Definitely check out this article, y'all. This is dope, Meg. I appreciate this.
Right. And of course, over 85% of prisoners incarcerated currently in the state of Pennsylvania is innocent. I don't know what the statistic is worldwide, but I would be like happy if somebody would want to educate me, or I would look it up. I'm guarantee you it's high. And that's due to lack of representation. That's due to, the DA holding, evidence until, the last minute type thing. And here's another chart that I grabbed from the prison policy. They're so great, like at doing data and stuff like that. And I'm a big nerd, just to be honest with you guys. I love data because I feel like this shows a lot, and you don't see prison data or like police officer involved shooting data a lot. So take a look. This is the sad facts of it. Whenever people get out of, prison, their life is ruined by this point. We're talking 5, 10, 15, 20 years later. It's a big question. Is their loved one going to stick around? They're now directly impacted by the system. Are they going to still have a house? Are they still going to, probably an employer is not going to hold your job for 5, 10, 15 years. Like homelessness, them trying to, the re-entry part of things, that's a huge problem. And we do have some great resources, but at the same time, we lack a lot of resources to the right people as well. Until recently, within the past year, the Black and brown community had never been offered free pardons. That's not
Talk
okay.
about it.
We should all have
Talk
that
about it.
chance of freedom. And that was my
Um,
goal and why I started from the very beginning.
Dora brought up a really good article that proves even more of our point, especially when you were talking about prisons being for profit and not a lot of people knowing about that. This article is a perfect example of that. Private prisons sue state for not having enough prisoners. And in Pennsylvania in particular, we are a very rural state. It means Penn's woods. Like 75% of Pennsylvania is forested, heavily forested.
There's shareholders.
Yes.
That's what it is.
You have to have heavily forested land. There are small towns with private prisons that Black and brown people from the inner cities are shipped to. And guess who is taking these jobs and being the authoritative figures in these prisons, contributing to the dystopian society that we have today? I'm just going to leave it at that, because I'm taking this up a little bit, but I'm sure Dora has some things to say about that.
In some prisons, the Department of Correction runs the prison medical system too. I'm just finding that out now.
That's true.
In Connecticut, I'm reading about it. In Connecticut, says it's one of the only U.S. states where its Department of Corrections runs its critical medical system. And lawyers have argued a mismanagement of this system and staff shortages led to the death of a man who died from lupus and other inmates.
Oh my God! So the DOC is the medical profiteer. That is so messed up. Because here in Pennsylvania, our medical profiteer, like it's very large, is Prime Care, and if you keep following the money, it looks like Prime Care is UPMC, but it takes a long time because they love to go in circles, and that's what I love about the government is there's no circle that I can't climb out of. So you have to, be very calm, cool, and collected, and self-teaching yourself is everything. I have not been to college for this. I have had lessons learned in life and self-taught during the pandemic. I kept seeing people get shot over and over again, and I didn't understand why this kept happening. And then it all came together as far as mental health plays such a huge role in it. And it's the lack of people's basic human needs being met as far as like addiction services, mental health services. And, all we can do is knowledge is power, live and learn for sure, and spread the knowledge. But Soup, did you have any opinions about the prisons being for profit?
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
So I was just looking at I was also looking at prison statistics, so I wanted to kind of like look that up. So 38% of people that are incarcerated in prisons in the United States, 38% are Black. And I think that's the real shock factor here because like I think it's like 13 or 14%. I think like Black people make up like 13 or 14% of America. So
Correct.
That is just absolutely staggering. Those numbers are absolutely staggering, and I just think that it's that the prison system is just a continuation of the 13th Amendment, basically. Like it's modern day slavery. Slavery hasn't ended. It's now the prison system, and they're locking Black people up for anything they can, and it's just modern day slavery, in my opinion. I'm sorry, I just wanted to say that.
I kind of agree.
If you want to look historically speaking, you're not wrong. If you go back east, where all the old plantations were, and you go to the site where the old plantation was, and you're going to find a prison by the same name. The old
Slave
plantation
catchers.
owners were the first wardens, and the fucking police are the former slave catchers. In fact, the same star that is the sheriff's department star specifically is the same star that was worn by the slave catchers.
Wow.
The 13th Amendment literally is a continuation. It says so in its own letter.
Yes. Yes.
Yep.
Speaking of the 13th Amendment, for those who want to brush up on what we're talking about and a better, deeper explanation, please go to Netflix or YouTube actually and type in the 13th. It is a documentary / film by Ava DuVernay that explains in detail the 13th Amendment and how it pertains to modern day slavery amongst descendants of African American slaves in America. It's a detailed explanation as to what people like myself have to endure, and it has not changed. It's just different incarnations over time.
And not only
what you pointed out, shit, I lost my train of thought. But Dora, you had a really good point.
Not about prisons, but prisons also for people that actually do wrong and go in there. They don't really change. If you notice, this is a conversation I had with my family for many years of my youth. And we've sat here and tossed the idea around that prisons don't work.
I agree.
My father even says this. My father says, you know what prison does for you? It makes you better at what you did to get in there.
Exactly. Talk about it, sis. Yes.
Change you.
Yes.
It reforms you the way they want you to be, so that you can keep going back in there again and again and again, becoming a cash cow. Basically,
well, it's the revolving door of the prison system is just like never ending, you guys. Like, I mean, people that are in the system stay in the system, and I feel like there's a reason for that too. So, yeah,
100%.
What is the percentage of people that return to prison within like 10 years? I think it's pretty damn high.
Recidivism actually overall.
That's why you see high recidivism rates too. For like,
I think it was like 68% last I looked.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Over or state or like nationwide, it's that high?
In the last few years overall, yeah. You gotta keep in mind a lot of places also have been doing a weird catch and release policy too. Since COVID started.
Our recidivism for Lancaster County here in Pennsylvania is fairly low. Like once these prisoners, but now granted, you do see some, of the same names coming.
I'm sorry, Meg, to cut you off, but you know why it's low? Because Lancaster County Prison is essentially a shelter. It is a houseless shelter.
Talk about it. Because being homeless nowadays gets you criminalized, which is such fucking bullshit. Excuse my language, everybody. But I had a Bailey
in the state of Missouri now.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Literally a crime in the state of Missouri, and there's even a incentivization for cities that don't want to pass laws that criminalize homelessness, where the state is fining them.
Yeah,
it is literally criminalized now.
In the county that I live in Massachusetts, Bristol County, the recidivism rate is 40%.
Wow!
Oh my goodness!
It's really high.
That's crazy. And that just shows you like you get into that whirlwind and you get sucked up into it and it's never ending. And that's what's so sad is we had a Bailey with the Lancaster Bail Fund and he got locked up over, a couple of times for flat out being homeless. And that's something that needs to be talked about. He was seeking shelter in a schoolyard and he got picked up by the police. At that point,
go ahead.
I want to see a day where there's as many mental hospitals as there are prisons. You want to start focusing on people's mental health, and that would prevent a lot of people from going to prison. Honestly, get them, with psychiatric care, get them medication. Like maybe that's the specific issue they're having. They're having mental health issues that are causing them to, end up there in the first place. Put them in a mental health hospital.
Oh
you
my
gotta be really careful. Though, or else we're going to end up in the same situation we had back in from, I believe it was like the 60s and earlier with the sanitariums and mental hospitals back then. Huge source of places for guinea pigs.
Yeah, well, no, the laws have changed since then, but we're not, obviously I don't believe in the experiments that were ran back then. And a lot's improved in mental hospitals since then. It's not like the horror stories of the 60s and 70s. I mean, it's improved a lot.
Science has gotten better.
It depends on the hospital.
It definitely does. And depends on where you're at within the country, because there is some crappy hospitals. But at the end of the day, whenever emergencies take place, those hospitals are there when we need them. And so like, what can, I definitely agree with you though, Soup, because if people's basic human needs, if we went to the root of the problem, and if people's basic human needs were being met, such as healthcare, such as housing, such as, everything else in between, far and wide, we have, the goal of life pursuit of happiness. This is not happening in a lot of these situations. And that's why we have to fight, for a great outcome or some kind of reform or systemic changes.
I mean,
I think personally what we need is to stop looking at it as people's mental health problems, because that says that there's something wrong with the person, when it's not necessarily the person, but the society and conditions in which they are existing that are creating those elements. One of the factors that's a literal statistic is that the higher your IQ is, the more depressed you are, for a reason.
Yeah, it's about how they feel. It's about how they feel about the world around them.
That part, Matt, so agree. Completely agree.
And what's so crazy is if you break, I have like my passion for years has been police officer involved shootings. If you look at police officer involved shooting data, 16 times more likely to be shot and killed by police if you have a mental health condition such as bipolar, schizophrenia, anxiety. Like, that is horrible, because that is something that America, like, and like you said, we've all been conditioned a certain kind of way. And that's why, these conversations do have to happen. And I thank you guys all for your comments. Like, I agree with every single one of you.
And in every one of those cases too, where they had a mental health condition, they always use the same method of harassment. They always use the victim's record against them and act like they're a bad person for what what the police did to them. Like, 100%. Yeah, because you're a bad person, because you may have done something wrong in your life, you deserve to die for it. No, nobody deserves to die.
It doesn't. Right. We all deserve the right to longevity and freedom and love and laughter and like prosperity. Like, we could go on forever, whether it be
what you're looking at right now on the screen is the county of Massachusetts I live in. And according to this article right here, the county I live in Massachusetts has the highest recidivism rate of every county in the entire state.
Wonder what the homeless rate is.
Right.
Bristol right there at the bottom.
Jefferson County, Oregon, same story.
Wow.
40%. 40% for Bristol.
Yeah.
And that is where you reside?
Yes.
So 40% is that, so that's the recidivism. What's the homeless rate? Because I guarantee you, the farther that we search into these situations again and again, the ACLU in California is suing the state or the city or the state or something due to them criminalizing homeless people. Like, that's all. Like, if we all open our eyes to the bigger picture, like, that's what we're gonna see is everything leads back to mental health or homelessness or a housing situation.
I agree.
And these police, like whether it be jails or whether it be police departments, they're going to protect their liabilities at all costs and their assets, which means their asses.
Talk about it.
That's why I've always said, like, whenever there's been a jail death, even so, I get so upset because I talk to these families like a lot of the times and just offer, like a community layer of support. Like, that's something that I started with, Put People First. And that's the only organization I've ever, been a part of. And they really care, like I told you, Jontel, like whenever we seen them, like that's family. And that's why, like, whenever you put yourself in those situations, nobody reaches out to your families if it's police officer involved shooting or jail death. The only person that will reach out possibly is the warden for the jail, which it's not their position because her job is to protect the liability and assets of the prison. They need like a chaplain or something. That's my solution. But
I should mention our sheriff for our county is actually going up for re-election. He's been the sheriff of our county since 1993. He's held his
wow, he
position
got it.
that long,
Damn.
and now he's going up for re-election. He's a big Trump supporter, big Republican. He
Gross.
has posed in pictures with the Confederate flag on a tie. We
Gross.
have the highest rate of recidivism rate in the whole state, and he has 3 challengers running against him.
Wow.
That's
I
because
was gonna say
Republicans want to lock everybody up, dude.
Yeah.
You go to these crime watch groups and these crime watch pages. I'm sorry, but specifically in Minneapolis, they're always like, we need to lock everyone up. We need to keep them locked up, or they're encouraging violence towards anyone who commits a crime. They're like, oh, so and so got shot. Well, he's got a criminal history, so we don't care. That kind of logic is just gross, and I'm so tired of seeing that.
Yeah, I think that the best thing for myself that I ever did was become non-politically affiliated, because I hate both of them equally. Like I'll be friends, I'll be courteous, I'll be nice, but at the end of the day, I was raised in Missouri. So I was raised by Republicans. From my dad was Southern Baptist and my mom was Pentecostal. So Republicans. I got married at 18 years old
Mom was racist.
into a Democratic family, a union family. And then a couple years ago, I decided I was going to be non-politically affiliated.
I think what would help a lot. What?
That's part of why I became an anarchist. I started looking at all the other systems and realized they're all freaking off their rockers.
Right.
Right. Until we
I was going to say that we
together.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Soup. Sorry.
Because I wanted to bring up something earlier that I didn't think about right away. It was I think we need to have more mental health counselors show up to scenes when a crime is being taken place instead of the police or accompanied with the police, and I feel like that de-escalation would be incredibly helpful. Also, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think that whenever the police and the whenever the mental health professionals and ambulance and hospital care staff stop dealing with the mentally ill in situations, that's whenever we would see police shootings skyrocket.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what year that was, but the death that happened here, Ricardo Munoz, he definitely, if there would have been a mental health support, I really think that they would have had enough sense. Now, common sense ain't common, but I think they would have had enough sense to put their foot on the door or something.
Mind you, he was on house arrest when he was shot and killed for a crime that he did not commit. He was the victim. He was jumped. Mind you, he was schizophrenic and lived with bipolar disorder, and he would walk around talking to himself sometimes, and he would get jumped and picked on. So he decided to carry a knife with him. He got picked on one night, got jumped. He defended himself, but they tried to turn it around and lie, commit perjury on the stand, saying that he attacked them, but on camera it clearly showed that they attacked him, but they still continued to put him on house arrest, and his trial to get off of house arrest happened to be the next day or that week of his murder. I don't find that suspect.
No,
I do find that suspect.
And what sucks so bad is it all starts at arrest. And that's what Lancaster Bail Fund has really been trying to push to the community, just to understand, is we are demanding certain requests, from the commissioners. And one of them is the jail don't need to be bigger, because if you build a bigger jail, what are you going to do? You're going to fill it up. You need public defenders at the preliminary arraignment, which is the first time that you go in front of the judge. That could change things significantly. These judges need to be held accountable as to what they're setting bail to. Before Paul Reardon and John Coma died in February at Lancaster County Prison, the bail's average was about $200,000. The crime did not match the bails whatsoever until they got sued. And that
second, Matt shared. I'm sorry, I just want to let Matt know that I'm looking for that article he just shared. I'm sorry, Meg.
Oh no, you're good. And it took them getting sued by the ACLU to realize, hey, let's be accountable somewhat. But they're still pushing for this $163 million or $1 billion jail, with our American Rescue funds. that's supposed to go to like housing stability and things like that. But they don't want to talk about that. And then you want to add like, get me started on a rant. I'm telling you, so many community members applied for the jail redevelopment board that was very well qualified, including attorneys, including people of this community that have been part of this community forever, and they were denied.
I'd like to make a slight correction. Earlier, I had stated regarding the recidivism here in Oregon, how Jackson County was one of the highest ones. And at one point that was true, but apparently since the state's rather lax decriminalization off of drugs, the drop in drug arrests has actually made it one of the lowest counties in the state.
What?
So that's interesting.
Did they
I
tell
mean,
you
the highest
percent?
one's still sitting at 60%, but that's neither here nor there.
In Oregon?
Yeah, highest county, Baker County is at 60%. The state average is 40%, and Jackson's down at 11%. Which I gotta say, I'm actually very, very proud of Jackson County. I thought I'd never thought I'd say something like that, but seeing that recidivism drop like that, it's that like that just goes to show how much though, where before that law change, that would have been Jackson sitting at 60+% because of the drug arrests specifically. So from 60 down to 11. Right. That's a big dramatic change in just drug policy alone, looking at a situation as a symptom rather than as the cause, like I was saying earlier.
Right. Yeah.
One of the tribal aspect of it is they do exactly that. What's the symptom? This is the symptom, so what's the cause? And they look away from the person to find the cause.
Now, do they give like alternative sentencing as far as like ARD? That's like, so in Pennsylvania.
They hand you the card to a rehab center and say, good luck.
What?
Like, that's the current, like, it's.
I mean, that's, I'm
very, very, what was it, Brazil, I think, that passed the decriminalization laws down there? That was Brazil, right? I can't remember exactly what country it was. But they passed a set of laws, and they noticed that their crime rate dramatically dropped when they did, where they decriminalized. Like, there's a certain level, if you're carrying so much, it's obvious it's not for personal use anymore.
Right.
And that's where those arrests become. But beyond that, like, they've got fairly actually high limits as to what can be considered personal consumption. And because of that, they have fewer arrests. The drug use itself has actually gone down a little bit. It went up at first and then tapered off to lower than it started. And we're seeing that happening here in Oregon as well. Just showing that an alternative look at treatments and at the way you look at a thing can very much so change the way the dynamics are.
100%. And it gives people the right, like the, possibility to change their own narrative. And they're helping the bigger problem as far as like making sure their basic human needs are being met. That's amazing.
I'm actually looking forward greatly to seeing what statistics are going to look like here in a couple of years.
Yes, for sure. Especially post-COVID, like, because jails acted like they were going to be super relaxed about like, not keeping people housed. And then, we had so many COVID deaths and so many, like, I review autopsies. And so in our county, Lancaster, I've reviewed everybody's autopsy for jail related deaths and on the street. So police officer involved shootings. And for the COVID death, the autopsy was non-existent. It was 1 page. Everybody else's is like approximately 11 to 14 pages.
Wow.
We actually just had one here recently, the other day. Somebody died mysteriously in our jail. Well, not a COVID death, but someone mysteriously died in our jail.
And see, that's what, like, there is Dr. Terrence Keel with UCLA is doing a report called the Coroner's Report Project. And they have educated me so much as far as like, these coroners are taking out, pieces of people's brains and hiding the blunt force trauma. like that people are enduring in prison. They're painting a whole nother picture of what's truly happening, and they're doing it right in front of our eyes. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's on it's on autopsies as well. It's like this, their spleen's missing. Like, it's crazy. So the things that are happening inside these jails, like we need like right to know requests for camera usages, like there's a lot of things that need to become, better for sure. And
cameras should all be live streamed 24/7 so where anybody can publicly look up the server.
yes, bro. I love that. That's amazing.
I think that should be the same thing with body cams. Like with body cams, that should be the same thing, dude. Like you should be able to like watch a officer's body cam at any time. But now you got to do FOIA requests and like pay money to get them. Yeah.
Exactly.
Like that's accountability and that's the kind of accountability and transparency that I'm talking about. And I don't find people on my like vibe when it comes to this stuff because I'm so like progressive. But this cannot keep happening. Like that picture in itself, that's going to be full. If you would put in like all the prison deaths that even just categorize them by passive hanging, quote unquote, which is like a good way that, coroners down here or down in this area like to categorize deaths. And it's not even like the regular hanging, like you're hanging by another object. And then like, it's horrible. So like this cannot keep happening. And
so why aren't prison guards like wearing body cams but police are like required to in some communities? That's a question.
In a lot of places, it's because they're privately owned organizations. I can tell you that at least half of the jails in this state are private.
Right.
And I believe 3 out of the 4 prisons, at least the ones that I'm aware of, men's prisons, are privatized. Both of the women's prisons are private, and there's numerous juvenile facilities that are also privatized. State here also likes to make use of, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the troubled teen industries. They had a bunch of specialized, like, you send your kid off kind of like a boarding school thing, and the state would send kids off that way. And it's been in recent history, actually, as a friend of mine that's heading up an entire expose project about it, as himself a victim of one of these schools. These are the kind of places where, like, rich families would send their LGBT kids, and the solution to their LGBT status was to abuse them into the correct sexuality. Like, this is the kind of crap that they would do. And this was also tied in with the same as the prisons industry. A lot of these companies are tied together, private companies that run all of this. And that's the thing, is we need to first off look at the fact of exactly the thing with the 13th Amendment that needs to be radically changed. Defranchisement
100%.
of incarcerated people. Think of it like this. We have a clause in our government that says that if you commit a crime, you lose the ability to vote. We also have a clause in our government that says that if you commit a crime, you are legally able to be used as a slave. It's literally designed so that you can mass incarcerate an entire group of people over frivolous BS charges, which if you look at a lot of the laws, that's exactly what they are. They're incentivized and centralized around taking people who are in impoverished neighborhoods, predominantly people of color, and putting them in a category where they cannot vote.
It keeps us
and
from
if you
going.
don't vote, you have no voice. And if you have no voice, then you don't have a representation. And that's exactly our problem, is that systemic point that starts with the 13th Amendment and the disenfranchisement of felons. Those two things need to be addressed and looked at. Because the second you do that, you create a secondary class of citizen altogether. And like, you can claim anything about any kind of ism that you want, but that creates classism inherently.
Yep.
And addressing that and completely removing any kind of financialization, monetization of the justice system whatsoever. If anything, the justice system should be set up so that it is in such a way to the public a nuisance to have around so that we incentivize treatment of and return to public as opposed to simply incarceration and indoctrination.
Right. Yes. Preach. I'm with you 100%.
You lose federal funding
guys,
the more felons you have in prison.
Yeah, because prisons are incentivized by money, I have a feeling that's what caused part of the recession. Because when people are let out that shouldn't be let out, and people are stuck in there that shouldn't be in there, it literally screws the whole system up, throws it out of whack. And that's why we've been seeing what we've been seeing.
Great segue, Matt, because I want to talk about really quick because we have to wrap up. The article that you just sent me is pertaining to, I'm sorry if I hacked this town's name, but Truro. Murder suspect dies of apparent suicide in New Bedford jail. This was on October 3rd at 1 p.m. The Bristol County Sheriff's Office. This is via WBSM. I will put the link in the comments for y'all. The Bristol County Sheriff's Office released an update on Monday afternoon stating that Howell was taken to Cape Cod Hospital for a psychiatric evaluation following his arrest on Friday night. After medical professionals cleared him to return to custody, he was taken to Ash Street Jail, where he was placed on security watch, meaning an officer could check on him every 15 minutes. Between officer rounds, he used a wet paper towel to clog his airways and cause a medical emergency. He was taken to a hospital where he was pronounced dead. And this is indicative of exactly what you were talking about, Matt.
And that's not the first death in this prison too. Like literally, this prison has been plagued by death for many, many years now. And like it's a hot topic for where I live, because like some people feel one way and I feel a different way, you know?
Right.
Did they really try to say that the man choked himself to death with a wet paper towel?
Right.
Thank you, Dora. Yeah. That's exactly where my thought process was.
I'm sorry. But
yes, they did.
Thank you.
Like,
I want you on my investigation
choked himself
team,
the way
if
Jeffrey Epstein hung himself. I'm sorry. That's what that is. That is BS. That is absolute BS.
Cover up.
Your body physically would not allow it.
Yep, exactly. Look into it. If you are the family of this person, look into it. Hire a wrongful death attorney. Most state statute is 2 years. Get them. Go for their necks. This is not possible. Get the autopsy, see what the autopsy says. If you would like for me to go over it, I do have resources available that can, go over it as well. We have to be the bridge. Screw building the bridge. We all have to be the bridge. We all have to use each other's knowledge and expertise in the areas that we favor and come together across all lines of division and just love each other. And, this has watered my spirit so much. Guys, I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart. I loved it. You guys made this so much more enjoyable with it being other than just me.
It was a very engaging chat. I really loved this and appreciate it as well.
No problem.
Shout out to Stu.
Hey, Matt, see if you can't send me some info about the family of that person. I'd like to actually offer some of my investigative journalist services to them.
All right, yeah. If I can find out information, I'll let you know. Right now, we're just at the stage. We're at the stage right now where people are just arguing about whether or not it was lawful or not, and I haven't seen much of the family come forward yet. But once they do, I'll let you know.
Definitely, send them my link or something. Pretty easy to get a hold of.
All right.
And if I can help with that at all, Dora, please, don't hesitate to reach out as well.
Shout out to Stacy DeVries, who just jumped on the show asking getting a briefing on what's going on. You're tuning in to Freedom for All, show hosted by your girl, Meg Keller, who was just speaking. The topic that we're actually discussing was about the prison conditions, recidivism, the statistics and things that go along with that. Am I right, Meg?
Yes, sir. And thank you for tuning in, Stacy. I greatly appreciate it. We are all just educating one another, loving each other. And just to end out, because we do only have an hour with you guys tonight, and my baby did just wake up. The Leon Block Independent Media is a grassroots independent media platform by people seeking to fill the gaps news deserts have created. Left and socialist leaning, we're pro-Black. We cover stories of police brutality, human rights, environmental issues, racism, and more in a more in-depth way that mainstream media can't, won't, and doesn't provide. Our mission is to change the way that citizens look at media, to embolden everyone to take part in politics and become an integral and active part of their community, to enrich all of our lives and to combat racism, to change the way we experience our lives. We focus on police-involved cases and incidents of racism, spirituality, world news, history, music, and art. But we thank you guys for rocking with us tonight, and I thank you, my co-hosts, so much. You guys are amazing.
Hey, Meg, don't forget, we've got some clips we want to show people before we round the show out.
Okay.
Yes, I know you wanted to end the show on this, so I wanted to make sure that you did not forget. This is a 13-year-old girl speaking her truth. I'm guessing in front of a city council?
Yes. So we will definitely end with that. And as always, on the path we meditate, to keep being we celebrate, for in spirit we liberate, so we may educate, to guide we must educate. And let's end it with this 13-year-old girl preaching her truth to a group of adults.
All of you are adults. Adults, right? You can drive, you can drink, you can vote. I don't have that. When I asked my mom if I could be dropped off here, her response was, "Is it safe? Is it safe?" You know, we had someone come up here and talk, and don't teach our children to disobey those who are protecting us. I don't see them protecting me. If you want to talk about those protecting me, I look to those who are standing right now, because my trust isn't in them. I don't trust any of you. I don't trust any of the police officers, because you have shown time and time again that we cannot trust you. I go to City High Middle School, just voted the top high school in the state. You know what they teach us? Teach us to speak up for yourself. We're IB learners, right? We're smart. None of you are smart. None of you can recognize murderers. You can identify that there is a problem, but you cannot fix it. I don't know much about the law. Again, I'm young, but I'm pretty sure an accomplice to a murder should be arrested. And right now, all of you sitting and doing nothing are accomplices to a murder.
Please refrain from the additional commentary. If you could let her finish.
I am frustrated, and frustrated can't even begin how absolutely terrified I am to live here. I'm expected to raise my kids here. I'm expected to go outside and walk my 5-year-old little brother. God forbid we look too scary. God forbid he accidentally is wearing his hood and we get the police called on us because we are window shopping to go steal later. I don't want to keep coming here. Trust me, this is not how I want to spend my night. I don't want to come here. I don't want to sit here and I don't want to have to beg you to stop killing people. That's not what I want to do. I have friends. I have other things that I could be doing, and I'm sitting in front of a group of adults who think murder is okay. You can't sit here and tell me you don't think murder is okay because you're allowing it to happen. If you want to talk about God, you want to talk about Jesus, I'm a Christian. I don't know what God some of these people believe in, but it sure ain't mine. I have never read in the Bible where he said we should allow the people who are supposed to be protecting us kill us. I'm sorry, maybe I missed that scripture though. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. Please do not make me sit here and scream another name. Do not sit here and make me beg. And God forbid that name is mine. God forbid that name is any of these people. God forbid. Thank you.
Thank you.
you.